Here's the thing about burnout. What I've discovered over the 35 years I've been working with over 200,000 people is that most of us look at it completely wrong. You're probably thinking you need to step away from your business or maybe take a long break or dramatically reduce your workload in order to overcome burnout. But that's actually one of the biggest mistakes that someone can make. So I'm going to share something that completely changed how I view burnout. And I worked with a business owner who was selling juice, okay? That's what he did. I mean, he was completely burnt out. He was, not making his numbers. He was showing up late to meetings. He was barely meeting quotas, if that. And he was ready to quit and close the whole thing down. But here's what was fascinating. Within just a few moments of having a conversation with him about why he originally started the business to begin with, getting him connected to his vision completely shifted how he viewed his work. So he ended up selling more juice than he had sold in the past 3 months in the next week combined. Because the truth is, burnout isn't about what you're doing or how much you're doing. It's about why you're doing it. You've all had the experience of working on something countless hours and being energized, not burnt out. It's because you're in the space of creation. And after working with hundreds of thousands of people, I have discovered that there's really two main sources of burnout. One of them is obvious, but the other one is a little counterintuitive, and most people miss it completely. So today, I'm going to show you exactly what these things are, how to overcome burnout without having to step away from your business, take a break, or shut down entirely. And also what I'm about to share is not just theory. I'm going to tell you, studies have shown that around 60% of entrepreneurs experience burnout, which leads to a 30% decrease in productivity. But the solution is not what people think. In fact, the traditional advice about just taking a break could actually make things worse. So I'm going to show you why. The first source of burnout is not being related to reality. What the heck are you talking about, Jocelyn? Well, this shows up as having to-do lists rather than actual things scheduled in your calendar. You end up double booking yourself. You end up with a list that never gets complete because you're always adding to your to-do list, and you're not living in reality. You're living in a fantasy world where you think you can get 48 hours worth of work done in 24 hours. Just think about it for yourself. How many times have you written down a massive to-do list only to feel overwhelmed and defeated when you couldn't get it all done? That's because your to-do list creates the illusion that everything's equally important and equally urgent and takes the equal amount of time, and it just isn't dealing with the mechanics of what it actually takes to get things done. In reality, those to-do lists don't really work, okay? When you're not grounded in what's real, you're constantly setting yourself up for failure, frustration, and yes, burnout and overwhelm. So the solution here is not to work harder or longer. It's to get real about time. And when you move something from a to-do list to actually scheduling specific blocks of time in your calendar, something really magical starts to happen. You start seeing the real constraints of time, and you're forced to make conscious choices about what truly matters. See, if you're not budgeting enough time to get your newsletter done, you'll start to see it when you allocate 30 minutes for that newsletter and you don't get it done. Then you'll have to actually deal with the reality that it takes you an hour to do your newsletter. Although you should be able to find ways to trim that time or delegate your newsletter, just in the spirit of being an entrepreneur who has it all versus do it all. But here's where it gets really interesting. The bigger source of burnout, and this is really the one that most people completely miss, is being disconnected from your vision. Now, when I say vision, most people think goals, and that's not what I mean. This is a contextual conversation. See, what there is to do, your to-do list, the items on your calendar, is all content. But the context is decisive. So I'm going to explain what I mean by that. If I hold up my finger and I say to you in the context body part, what is this? You will say finger. But I'll keep holding up the same thing in reality, and I'll say, okay, in the context number, what is it? And you'd say 1. And in the context direction, what is it? And you'd say up. Nothing has altered in reality. The same thing is here, but the context alters, and how you see reality, what there is to do with reality, what's possible, what's not possible, all alters the moment the context shifts. And that happens in your life too. When you alter the context, everything alters about the content, including how you see it and how you see what actions are possible to take with regard to it. This is exactly what happened with my client who was selling the juice. When we first met, he was viewing his work through the context of meeting quotas and, having to talk to a bunch of people and basically sales and numbers. But when I got him reconnected to why he originally got into the juice business, his commitment to well-being, that's what he wanted to impact, is people's well-being. And the minute he resaw that and actually reconnected to it, everything altered. He then saw this vehicle of a juice company is some way for him to fulfill his vision, not something for him to do to get through the day and pay his rent. He actually saw the juice as a way of impacting people's well-being. Like, wow, people could be healthier if they were drinking this juice. And all of a sudden, he was no longer selling juice. He was supporting people in their well-being. Now, that is a game changer when you are feeling disconnected and burnt out because you're having to get the numbers. When you shift from the vehicle to the vision, you have more air to breathe. You start to actually get connected to energy. When he reconnected with his vision, the light started coming back to his face. He went from looking kind of gray and defeated to having color in his face again. And when I asked him, if what you were about is making a difference with people's well-being, what do you see from there about what there is to do with your job? And he had a complete breakthrough. He realized that people he had been avoiding calling to sell juice because he didn't want to be hawking juice, that those people had the ability to reach out to hundreds of thousands of people, and he could be impacting those hundreds of thousands of people's well-being on a massive scale. All of a sudden, making those phone calls was no longer a chore, it was an opportunity. And that is the power of context. The actions and the results that come from the actions, if they're in the context of your vision, there's like magic to them. It's creation. There's more air to breathe. There's a flow. There's an ease. There's an effectiveness that gets discovered and uncovered and revealed and allowed for. And this isn't possible when you're in the default context of getting through the week or getting through the quarter or getting stuff done or making stuff happen. Making numbers and quotas and all of that as a context is just like a space-sucking monster. It's life-sucking. But when you bring your vision back, when you actually reconnect to your vision and have that be the context, you actually start to bring back that kind of life and magic and creation to what you're engaging with, rather than just dealing with content. So here's what I want you to take away from this. Burnout is not about needing to step away from your business. It's about stepping back into your vision. When you're connected to why you started in the first place, when you're grounded in reality about time and how much time things take, and when you are operating from a context that's bigger than the default context of just getting through the day or making numbers, that's when everything changes. The research backs this up. Studies show that entrepreneurs who maintain a strong connection to their purpose and vision are significantly more resilient to stress and burnout. This is not about working less. It's about working from a different place, standing in a different world. Remember, you don't need to escape your business to escape burnout. You just need to escape the limiting context, the prison you've been operating from. Reconnect with your vision and get real about tasks and time, and then just watch how burnout transforms into breakthrough. If you found this valuable, then you want to go deeper into transforming your relationship with business, check out my next video where I show you the exact framework that I use to help entrepreneurs reconnect with their vision and create unstoppable, unmessable with momentum. Click on the video screen now to discover how to turn your business back into a source of energy and inspiration rather than exhaustion.